Hello, fellow hobbyists, and welcome to Ashtabula Hobby Talk. I am Nemo, KE8PBL, president of Amigos Radio Club Ashtabula and amateur radio enthusiast.
My name is Rykus, comic book enthusiast, store owner of Captain's Comics in Northeast Ohio, in North Kingsville. Um, yeah, welcome to ah, welcome to Hobby Talk.
Hey, it's okay. We got it. We got it. So, Thor, you got a big thing at the comic book shop. You got some Thor stuff going
Yeah,
on.
someone brought in a huge collection of Thor. A lot of early hundreds. Thor didn't come out in issue one. It spawned off a different title, and so the earlier issues is in the hundreds, and there's a good portion of the hundreds and 200s and a little bit of the 300s. There was a first time that Captain America weld Mjolnir, the Thor's hammer.
Awesome.
So that was in there.
Yeah. So I happened to see that on your Facebook page on my way in to the studio today, and thought that was a great thing to have happen for you.
We're still pricing it out, and we expect to have everything on the floor by next week.
Awesome. So go check them out over there at the corner of State Route 20 and 193. Excellent. Excellent. Hey, some pretty cool stuff is happening, and I kind of wanted to address some myths in the amateur radio community. Well, not really amateur radio community, but myths from outside the amateur radio community.
Like myth, like a radio monster?
No, like a myth. Is there a radio monster?
I don't know. There should be.
Maybe you'll indulge me for just a minute, though.
I think we should write a comic book about it.
Maybe.
Me and you be
There are
writers.
comic books about amateur radio. Not
I know
many.
comic books. You know radio. We can write a comic book about it.
Absolutely.
Radio monster.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But hey, instead of just a myth monster, I something that's towards the front and center is and it's an outside looking in thing that many people seem to say when they think about amateur radio, and they're talking to me about amateur radio. Like, we go out, we set booths up and stuff, just like we did with Field Day. And people come up and they say, "Oh, amateur radio is a old man's hobby," and that's sort of not really a true myth, but it is something that people say. So I'm just I just kind of want to touch on that a little bit today, and also in the spirit of that, there is a girl out there from Ohio. Her name is Katie Campbell, and she's about to win a big award. She's gonna win the I can't remember exactly. It's a memorial award. It's from Amateur Radio Newsline, and she's gonna win the Young Ham Radio Operator of the Year award through them. She's done quite a bit of stuff. She's the head of she was licensed to age 10, so right there kind of shows you
Wow.
that. And I've personally known amateur radio operators that were as young as 8. But she was licensed at age 10, so congratulations on that.
And you have to like pass a few tests to get to your license, right?
Yes, and some of the tests are technical, and I actually, you know, I kind of have the lowest level of amateur radio license, as a technician class license. But I know people who are 10-year-olds that are extras, or know of them anyway. Actually, I think a few of them are people I know that are at least general classes. There's currently three classifications. General, technician, general, extra. A lot of them just get their technician, and then, okay, I got it, so I can talk a little bit here and there. But man, this girl has done quite a lot. She's the youth representative for the Young Ladies Radio League. She represented the Young Radio Operators group for the ARRL at Hamfest not long ago. That's the big, huge nationwide convention of amateur radio operators that takes place in Dayton, Ohio every year. So, congratulations to her, because, she's done quite a bit. But it's not just her. And, she's from, Ohio. But just thinking to myself, just in Ashtabula County, well, like our line producer, he was a teenager when he just turned 19. He's been a amateur radio operator since COVID. Um, and he kind of was working his way there before it, but then as soon as COVID happened, he was like, "I need to talk to people." So he went out and got tested. Um, my friend Matt, W8DEC, who is a member of our radio club, he actually operates his own radio club with his entire family and all of his kids. I think there's four. I could be wrong. But they run their own club because he wanted to teach them organizational skills. He wanted them to become amateur radio operators. He himself is an EMT and works for several different communities. Um, and so he was trying to show them the importance of being a part of that and how amateur radio falls into that. So it's not just a young man's hobby or an old man's hobby. It really is. There's probably of the 700,000 plus 750,000 plus amateur radio operators in the country. I would be willing to say that it's safe to say that at least 10 to 15,000 of them are under the age of 18, if not more. So that's just sort of what I wanted to talk about a little bit.
That's kind of neat how the whole family's involved in the radio thing. It's more than just a hobby too.
It can be. It can be.
He's actually teaching his kids life skills through his hobby, and they're probably gaining life lessons just using the radio.
Yeah, and in our hobby, like you came out to field day with us, and we did field day. Something about that. When there's contest days like that, there's the secret weapon is little kids on the radio. A little kid on the radio will guarantee what we call a pileup, which is a line of radio operators on that frequency waiting to make a contact with that station because they want those kids to feel the dopamine rush, I guess is the best way to put it, of being a part of that community and like, oh wow, people really do want to, there is something to this. So, I would be remiss also if I didn't say this too, because, and I didn't want to touch on this, but it just came to me because I talked about this last night on the Wednesday night joke night, the radio show I do, every Wednesday night. And, but I do want to thank all the amateur radio operators out there that are in the Texas area right now that are helping with the search and rescue operations that are going on down there. That's something that we do. And I know for a fact that there are amateur radio operators embedded with the search and rescue teams, helping out with communications, passing traffic, getting people in touch with their families, things along those lines. I don't have any of that information in front of me because I just remembered about it right now, but that stuff is out there.
Shout out to all those people helping.
Absolutely.
You have our gratitude. That's amazing.
Thank you. So yeah, so that's all I really wanted to touch base on was that's sort of a myth that there aren't youth involved in the hobby, that myth really does come from outside of our hobby. People looking from the outside of the hobby looking in.
Right.
So there's plenty of youth gateway opportunities to get involved. The Boy Scouts, for instance, has what they call Jamboree on the Air, which is a big day every year that they sit down with all the Boy Scouts and they give them all merit badges for radio operations. Like this young lady I just mentioned, she's president of her high school's radio league, radio club. They're even starting to, again, thank goodness, recognize academically that and put them back as accredited courses within the schools, because really it's a STEM field. When you get right down to it, it is a hobby, but it's a STEM hobby. And you've got guys out there, oh, I got my cell phone, I don't need a radio to send a picture, I can just text it to you. But the reality is your cell phone is using radio signals, and if you want to go be an actual cell phone technician or a tower technician, which are good 6-figure jobs. Absolutely. The basis for what you're doing is amateur radio. In fact, we have a guy, Brian, in our club. He's a great guy. He always comes to the meetings with a smile on his face, and that's exactly what he does for a living. He's a tower technician and a like a phone guy, phone technician.
It's always great to have your hobby build a career for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, and hopefully we'll be able to focus on some of that in the near future here.
I've been struggling trying to do that for a while now.
Well, hey, you've got the comic book store going on, and
I have I was known in the comic book community as someone with heart in the comic. I was really enthusiastic about comic books. I loved them, and I liked being involved in everything comic book related. And it was just only part of the evolution is just building a store, and I'm still building it up, still working on it. But I mean, the whole goal would be later on is just to retire and travel around and go to comic book conventions and just travel and look at comic book stores and bring stuff back to my store.
that would be cool.
That's the end goal, but we have to get there first. I got couple.
Well, you got a good shop going, and I know you've got your own collection sitting in the back, not necessarily in the shop, but you know.
But I was pretty young myself when I got into the comic book hobby. I was about 8 years old, and my parents, my parental units, wanted to go and have a couple, like a couple's date with their friends, and so they bought me a comic book and shoved me in the corner and said, "Here you go." I read the comic book. I'm like, "This is pretty good. I want more." It was a Superman. It was 1988. It was towards the winter because it was a homeless for a holiday comic book where Superman's helping the homeless people. And I remember it because that was the first comic book I bought consecutively. I bought like the next issue after that, and the next issue after that, and the next issue after that. And then by the time 89, 90 came around, I was so enthralled into the Ninja Turtles. Everything had to be Ninja Turtles. I was getting monthly subscriptions to them. I had a turtle bandana, turtle outfit, turtle posters.
So my understanding, an interesting thing you mentioned that, because that was probably right around the time that I was very heavily into RPGs. And back then they weren't live actions like they were now. They're tabletop RPGs, but of course they were role-playing games. So if you rolled up a D&D character as a barbarian, we tried to play barbarian, and the other person tried to be cleric, and we tried to take persona and acting and all that. So that's all part of that. That was a hobby I got involved in fairly early on. And my understanding is, if I'm not mistaken, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came from a role-playing game called Roadhogs. And I could be wrong about this, but if I remember correctly, there was a game, it was called Roadhogs. And actually, Bebop and Rocksteady were original characters in that game system. And it was basically like a demolition derby type game where you would build cars like Mad Max style cars and drive them around the city and smash them up. And Mutant Turtles became a spin-off of that game because it was one of the character classes that you could do. And I think it had something to do with Revised Recon too. Like they took the game system from Revised Recon and made the role-playing game for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And that was right around the time that the comic book came out. And then all the movies and the cartoons and all that stuff started happening.
I wasn't quite aware of that, but I do know that the Turtles, the creators, Lloyd and Eastman, was heavily influenced by Daredevil.
Okay.
They loved the character Daredevil, the comic book. Matt Murdock, he was in the Turtle comic book. This little kid was carrying a bowl full of 4 turtles that he just got at the pet shop. And there was an accident and he dropped the turtles into a sewage, and toxic spill got shoved into the sewage and got a little bit in the kid's eyes. Kind of like the same origins as Daredevil. They're trying to say like, oh, these two came from the same place.
Yeah.
Without having the license and saying that was Matt Murdock.
Yeah, I mean, I could be a little bit wrong on that, but I think I'm kind of right. So if
There's
anybody,
probably like influences on that too. I can see that happening.
I'm sure there is. So if maybe somebody can correct me on that if I'm not correct on it. But I grew up in that era, so I kind of remember it being.
I can totally see Lloyd and Eastman pulling from all kinds of different things, and I think they were gamers.
Yeah,
board gamers.
A lot of
tabletop.
A lot of what comic book and cartoon developers were tabletop role players, I think.
Well, I think D&D really helps your creative skills and thinking outside the box, putting yourself in the role of a different person. So acting and troubleshooting can be really, really influential skills.
Absolutely.
From Dungeons and Dragons.
You know, one of the things I really enjoyed when I was in the role playing game, and I actually so there used to be a role playing game out there run by a good friend of mine, Jack, who watches the show, I believe, and I know his wife does. Called 13 Past Midnight, and that was based off the Vampire the Masquerade Mind's Eye Theater system. And at one point, that game was 80 people strong every Friday night. And what I really liked about it was not necessarily the genre / setting, you know, but it was the actual role playing, the theater aspect of it. Because yes, we're all vampires. Yes, we're limited to like the vampire thing. It's not like D&D where there's way more expansiveness.
Right.
It's not yes, it's fantasy, but it's like modern day fantasy because you're all playing vampires in the here and now. But the theater and the acting were what really drew me to it. I could have cared less whether we were playing vampires or not. We could have been playing other stuff too. So
right. I did play the vampires game once, and the group I played with didn't catch on with it, and we just played one game and done. But we did play a lot of other games. Mostly D&D was the core, though. I've had other groups I've played other games with. My brother-in-law played Rifts, and got me into Rifts a little bit. And Battletech was big. My uncle was playing Battletech, so I was starting playing Battletech.
Yeah, Battletech was pretty fun. I played it more so as on the video game side, but I did appreciate that. Starfleet battles, as far as like, you know, ship to ship kind of big robot combat thing. I played Starfleet battles. I thought that was a pretty cool game. It was the kind of game you could sit down, you could lay out a ship in half an hour, play a game in like another hour, and then everybody could go home happy. Which is better than some of the horrible role-playing games out there. Not horrible, but like, did you ever look at the Middle Earth role-playing system? Have you ever seen it? That was the most complicated, convoluted.
You know, something that came out of J.R. Tolkien. I see that being complicated. I tried reading the Shimmerlin. I don't even know how to pronounce it. But the book about the whole history of it, that was a complicated read.
Yeah, so there's been quite a few role-playing games I've done my time through, that's for sure. But I did appreciate the vampire stuff. When I was doing that, let's see. So 13 Past Midnight progressed to Cleveland by Night, and it was one of the longest role-playing games. I mean, like literally 4 or 5 years straight. When I left that scene, it was still going. It had gotten to the point where the people who were running the game had bought a house in downtown Cleveland to run the game because it was centralized down there and properties were cheap. And that game had, like I said, 80 people showing up at that house every Friday night.
80 people playing one game?
80 people playing one role-playing game, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, usually it ran 5 or 10 storytellers, DMs, whatever you want to call them, running around making sure things were getting done kosher. And, you know, it's a shame that the role-playing game for Vampire didn't take off up here. I think what it's still going is there used to be a group called Carpe Noctem. And I'm sure you're familiar with the influence rules and all that came along with that game. So Carpe Noctem is nationwide, and actually it's global. So what happens in Cleveland affects what happens in Columbus, affects what happens in Cincinnati, affects what happens in Ashtabula.
Okay.
So if I'm in Cleveland and I use my influence in Columbus, and there's somebody in Columbus that has influence in Cincinnati, they can use their influence from Cincinnati to affect what happens in Ashtabula. And then there's still all the intrigue and so on and so forth that goes on locally within the role playing game. So you could be sitting in Ashtabula, and the storytellers, the game controller people, they get emails from the national list on a regular basis saying, "Hey,
Wow.
these people from this area are affecting your area with these influences." So you have to, as a storyteller or a DM, however you want to call it, convey that to the characters. So somebody with transportation is putting a blockade on all the highway in your cities. Well, where's that coming from? Oh, it's coming from Cincinnati. Well, but it's not really coming from Cincinnati because that's being relayed through Columbus. Because somebody else in Columbus is putting pressure on the people in Cincinnati to make it happen to you. So it's really kind of a cool setup. And
Wow.
I used to play in that role playing game too, but I was not as serious about it. I went to a couple of conclaves, which was like the big national get-togethers they have every year. But
You mentioned acting a lot. Do you actually do the whole, like, put on the role of that character, or
yes,
you have to be in character and
absolutely
kind of act it?
Absolutely.
I never played a D&D where I was actually acting.
Okay, so like when I did D&D, it was mostly just sit down tabletop.
Right.
But we still tried to put the little the character voice on, and we still tried to act, as best we could. It's hard to do that and just around a table on a living room.
Right.
But when you have a whole house or an entire yard or a big piece of property that you're role playing on, it's much easier for these 5 guys to go into a room and role play a scene, improv role play a scene, than it is for 20 people sitting around a table. It's less hack and slash, I should say.
Right. Wow. That's just kind of epic.
With the vampire game, I remember once I dressed up with a friend of mine as she was what is that, Samedi? No, it's not. I can't remember, but they're like the Egyptians. They dress up like mummies, sort of, and we dressed her up as a mummy. And we put her on a dolly, and I walked around with her on a dolly all night long. And while she commanded me to do stuff, because I was like the bodyguard, person and the transportation person. But she wheeled and dealed all the politics, and I was just a hammer.
Muscle.
So, yeah.
Nice. Oh, lots of hobbies out there.
Yeah.
I'd like to deep dive into a lot more of them.
We're going to. We're gonna be pushing a bunch of that. Actually, we've got some really cool stuff coming up in the near future here. I don't want to get too much into it, but we've got some guests coming on the show in the next couple episodes. So
yep.
We're really looking forward to doing that.
Yes, it's gonna be cool.
Hey, now might be a good time. Did you bring it?
I didn't.
You didn't bring one.
I didn't. I forgot. I was trying to think of all the other things going on in the comic book store with the Thor.
I should have sent you a message. You were busy.
But I mean, we're creeping pretty close on the number 50 subscribers, right? You want to do it at 50?
Are we? Well, I thought we were going to do 100.
100? Okay.
100. I mean, thank you everybody, because our views are doing pretty good. I'm really happy and excited that we have a channel that is getting, close to 100 views every video. So thank you very much to everybody for that. That's really appreciated.
Right.
And it's not just our line producer watching it over and over and over again.
But yeah, I feel like
we're gaining
some traffic.
One more episode. Bring it.
Bring it.
I got my part.
All right.
So we got something big. We talked about it a little bit last week.
We're going to do a giveaway, right?
We're going to do a giveaway. We'll spring it on you next week.
Okay.
We'll tell you guys all about it.
One more thing about the comic shop. there's a new character that came out, Captain America. I want to talk about.
Yeah, quick. We can do
I
that.
can do it real quick.
No, not even just real quick. We are not on a time limit. It's our show. Do what we want.
But I don't have much to say about it because issue 1 just came out last week. It's Captain America #1. It's not Steve Rogers' Captain America. This is a whole new Captain America from a whole new era. Captain America, Steve Rogers came out in, the Cold War, and he was fighting Nazis, and he fell and got frozen in water and, thawed out and brought down in modern age. Well, this Captain America, his name is David Colton, and his first appearance is Captain America #1 that came out last week, Captain America #1, and Chip Zdarsky is doing the writing for it, and this Captain America is a little bit different because they set him in more of a modern time, with the post 9/11.
Okay.
So
are they Dead Pirate Robertsing them? Is that what they're doing, or is it new timeline? New?
well, it's kind of early. I didn't have time to read the comic book in my shop yet, but
Okay.
I have it set aside. I was going to read it, and the Thors came in, everything came in. I was busy at the shop.
Then you had to come here.
Yeah. So it's on my reading list to find out more, but I feel like this is going to be something epic that we're going to have to go back to.
Okay.
So,
Well, then maybe we'll talk about it a little more in a week or so when you've finished a couple of the. Are there's a monthly now? Is that
Yeah.
what they're doing? A monthly?
#2 is already listed. FOC was for issue 4 this week.
All right.
And go to your local comic book store and get them.
Hey, good up to Captain's Comics and tell him you want to start pulling the series. He'll get it for you.
He's going to go into Afghanistan and Iran and to fight the war on terrorists.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So he's
really
not fighting
modernizing
Nazis, but he's fighting terrorists.
really modernizing it. Then.
Right.
Absolutely. Very good. Very good. Any actual announcements you want to make there?
No. 4th of July went by. Everyone's got their digits, I hope. I count 5 on mine.
I actually
5 on each.
went to a private one this 4th of July.
Yeah.
And there's some, I won't say where, but it's they do one of the best fireworks displays. It's just some people that do kind of a backyard display, but they bring a fire truck out, a real fire truck, and they put off about a 45-minute show.
Okay.
And
I plan on going to one this weekend. It's like a backyard one, like you did went to. My friend's backyard shares that neighbor's backyard, so we get front row, and it's about 45 minutes, and it's in Jefferson.
Awesome. So I guess if that's what you got there, I do have one or two things. Obviously, you can find me at Wednesday Night Joke Night on YouTube, and so check us out over there. You guys can listen to those. There's always good topic information over there too. I usually try and keep that different than what we talk about here. Although that's all amateur radio and members of the amateur radio community here. But you don't have to be an amateur radio operator to listen, that's for sure. But
right.
Speaking of amateur radio stuff and events, on July 19th, we have our local Hamfest coming up. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's sort of like our it's a amateur radio convention / swap meet. We're going to have food and drinks and beverages and stuff like that there, including Amish baked goods and homemade ice cream. And of course, we're going to have a bunch of radio guys hanging out there doing their thing. So everybody who's watching, please show up. We're going to be out at Pioneer Picnic. That's I think that's 1809 Middle Road. Just look it up. It's in Pierpont, Ohio. It's been around for 135 plus years, so people should know where it is. So yeah, come check us out.
How did that dinner go? The Amish dinner.
The Amish dinner went great.
Yeah, what was the turnout?
They had a pretty big turnout. There is another one coming up here in probably it's coming up in 2 weeks. I don't want to say exactly when because I don't have the date off the top of my head, but they've already announced the next one. It's I think the last weekend of this month.
Okay.
So they are coming up with another one. I'll have that information next week.
All right.
Yeah. So come out to the Hamfest.
I enjoy talking about hobbies, and we're gonna have a lot more than just radio and comic books on this show.
Yeah.
And so please tell your friends, your neighbors about the show, like and subscribe. And if, in the comments, if you have a hobby that you want us to talk about, or if you want to be on the show, we can probably that will only happen through messaging. So
Yeah, yeah. And at some point we'll start doing this show live, and
That's the
then
goal.
we'll start monitoring the messages a little more. I know that there's been some comments in the messages and we haven't gotten back to them. Well, maybe one day we'll do a quick episode.
I've been monitoring the messages, and mostly is geared towards our line producer.
Oh yeah, somebody wanted his phone number. I don't remember.
Yeah,
But see, we do read it.
we do read it.
And I think that was a guy anyway.
And I think your dad commented about some manga comics.
Yeah, it was back when we did the show about what's your favorite style of comic books.
Your dad
and
is into manga.
we asked
or is
about
he just curious?
well, all my sisters are manga
Okay.
people. They're all Japanese comics.
Usually, comic books and manga go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I unfortunately don't know anything about manga or anime. I
Ooh.
tried it a little bit, but their acting's a little over the top for me.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll bring somebody on the show who knows quite a bit about it. I
look forward to it. I know several people that would just love to talk about anime.
Me too. So maybe we'll bring one of them on.
And I would look forward to someone showing me some manga that I would like.
So not this week, but I know next week, not this show, not next show, but the show after that, we're going to be bringing our first guest on, I believe.
I believe so.
All right. So stay tuned. And
we're going to be talking more about other hobbies than comic books and radio.
Yeah. Well, which we already dove into a little bit today. So I'm glad we did that because that was refreshing for me.
Yeah.
It brought back some memories. I haven't done any role playing in a long time like that.
I still role play.
I wish I had time between the farm and working and everything else I do. I got my forks in a lot of fires. All right. Well, let's wrap it up because we're getting close to that time, aren't we? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We're getting close to that time. That's what the timer says over there. That's why I keep looking over there. All right. Well, thank you everybody for being here again. Like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with everybody you can.
Find us on this channel. Find Nemo at Wednesday Night Joke Net.
And go find Rykus here up at Captain's Comics on the corner of 20 and 193. And thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for joining us. Bye.